Well, this video has been a long time coming. Every self-respecting Survivor YouTuber has to rank the seasons at some point or another, and since Survivor 50 has come to a close, I figured there's no better time. Once Survivor 48 concluded, I began my long rewatch of every season, in order to prepare for this and the winner ranking, which will be next time. It goes without saying that this list is entirely subjective. What I look for in a Survivor season might not be what you look for. The best seasons, to me, have a great cast, full of fun, dynamic personalities, are relatively lighthearted, with some fun petty drama sprinkled in, epic blindsides, some good challenges, and a well-told storyline that results in a satisfying winner. A good season doesn't need all of these, but this should give you some good context for how I'm going about this. Basically, my rationale is which season would I rather rewatch, or which season could I sincerely recommend to others. So I'm going to separate them into 5 tiers. D tier seasons are those that I just don't enjoy that much, especially in comparison to the others. Now, I'd take a bad Survivor season over pretty much any other reality show, but that's beside the point. C tier are seasons that I think are fine. Not the best, not the worst. Or those that I have heavily mixed feelings on. B tier are just good all-around seasons. They may have their problems, but these are seasons that I enjoy watching from beginning to end. A tier are the great seasons. These are the ones I can easily recommend to anyone, or ones that just really left an impact on me. Finally, you know the drill, S tier are the big dogs. This is the elite group to me. These are not only my favorite seasons of Survivor, but some of my favorite seasons of television just in general. Now with all that, let's finally begin my personal ranking of seasons 1 through 50 of Survivor. I've made my disdain for Survivor One World no secret on this channel. This was the first season I watched live that I seriously considered stopping. The Kim win is so obvious, as I've said before, which makes this season a slog to get through. Now I know some like seeing one player completely dominate their cast, but personally, I prefer my seasons to be on a more level playing field if you catch my drift. The total ineptitude of gameplay on this season is painful. Not even in a Gabon or 46 fun kind of bad gameplay, it's just sad. I'm fine with a season being a little boring at times, but when this one's not boring, it's just gross. Colton easily makes my top 5 least favorite players of all time. He angers me in every scene he's in, and we don't even get the satisfaction of seeing him get his just desserts. Now, like every season, there are some fun moments here, particularly with Kat and Troyzan, but arguably the worst cast of all time, combined with some truly foul moments, swiftly put One World at the bottom for me, and I doubt that'll ever change. As a big Boston Rob fan, you would think that Redemption Island would be a season I would really like, right?
Wrong!
This season is a drag. I knew before the credits rolled on the first episode that Rob was gonna win, and while I was happy to finally see him get the W, it has the One World problem for me where it seemed like most of the cast had no interest in even trying to play the game. I'd much rather people try to play and fail spectacularly than not play at all and let the 1 or 2 good players steamroll, foreshadowing for some seasons to come. That being said, because I am a Rob fan, part of me does love seeing him play so expertly here. That's not enough for me to keep the season out of D tier, but it is enough for me to keep it off the bottom. There's also some really uncomfortable moments involving Philip, but I'd rather not open that up here. I actually don't even mind the titular Redemption Island twist that much. Honestly, I think it's the best comeback mechanic they've ever tried, but that's a video topic for later. In short, if you watch this season 15 years later on a binge, it's not as bad, but watching it live was excruciating, so that's why I have it this low on the list. You all know why IOI is this low, no need to dwell on it too much. It's been taught to death, so I'm not even going to waste my time. The thing that pisses me off the most about it is that it completely ruins what would have otherwise been a pretty good season. There's some great character and strategic moments here, and honestly, I thought the titular island with Rob and Sandra was pretty fun. I've made this comparison before, but even if you tried to remove Dan from this season, it'd be like trying to remove Jar Jar Binks from The Phantom Menace. He's too prevalent and too integrated into the story for it to be possible. So yeah, it could have been a strong season, but was completely neutered by an awful, awful scenario. That's about all I can say, really. Let's just move on before I get sick. Survivor 41 had an uphill battle from the beginning. Coming off the heels of Winners of War was always going to be a tall order, so it's understandable that they wanted to shake things up and do something completely different. It's just a shame that for the inaugural New Era season, they did pretty much everything wrong. Now, please don't take this as me being a New Era hater. I've actually quite enjoyed most of the 40s, but this one just does not do it for me. The main thing I hate about this season is the editing. There's so much focus placed on all the new crap they threw in, which takes time away from the stuff that actually matters. Like, oh, I don't know, the relationship between Erica and Heather, which ended up being the most important alliance of the season? I do love seeing the relationship between Shan and Ricard, and there are some big moments, but the backwards-ass editing and the borderline Mario Party-esque shenanigans, where everything's made up and the points still matter, make it hard for me to get invested. Luckily, pretty much every season that came afterwards trimmed the fat and course-corrected somewhat, but this one did not leave a good impression on this run of the show for me. It's also a very serious season, which can have its own appeal, but it honestly just bums me out. 41 has some redeeming qualities, but excluding seasons with real-world ugly moments, like the ones below, this might be my personal least favorite season of all time, which is why it's in D tier. I have had a complicated relationship with Survivor Thailand. Growing up, I actually really liked this season. Aside from the core 6, this was the only season I had on DVD, which was a big deal for me. Then I watched it for the first time in like 10 years during lockdown, and was genuinely shocked at how bad I thought it was. Then, on my most recent viewing, I was able to find some of the gold hidden under the guano. The strategic gameplay wasn't as bad as I remembered it, and the characters had slightly more personality than I gave them credit for. Rob and Sheehan alone make it worth it. Also, the production quality this season is stellar. The tribal council setting is top tier, and the challenges can be really creative, but there's so much ugliness this season that it makes it hard to appreciate all that. This season's biggest problem is that it's so mean-spirited. The Ted and Gandia situation leaves such a bad taste in my mouth every time I see it, and it really sours my thoughts on the season as a whole, especially worse in a post-Island of the Idols world. I couldn't decide whether to place it at the top of D or the bottom of C, so I'm just gonna flip a coin. Okay, Tails. Bottom of C it is. Not the absolute worst, but I can't in good conscience call myself a fan anymore. And here it is, the season that made me stop watching the show for many years. Which on the surface might sound strange considering how much I love Cochran, but really he's the main reason this season isn't lower. This season might have the absolute worst pre-merge of all time. The Fans tribe was so phoned in, and the toxicity of Shamar and Brandon Hance makes the first half painful to watch. After they're gone, however, it does pick up. The Three Amigos tribal is great, of course, the Andrea blindside is good, and seeing Cochran become a genuine challenge beast and winning the game was thrilling. Yes, we end with the ugliness of the Brenda and Dawn debacle, but all in all, the second half is much better than the first. But that first half is so bad, it nearly ruins the whole season for me. If I knew that the show was going to get better soon, I would have stuck around. But as it is, I'll always associate this season as the initial end of Survivor for me. Until Paramount Plus and being stuck at home brought me back. Fiji, in many ways, reminds me of Karamoan. They're very similar. Both are strong contenders for having the worst pre-merge of all time. The god-awful haves vs have-nots twist starts the season off on the wrong foot, and it's soul-draining to watch Ravu lose again and again and again, knowing there is absolutely no hope for them. It's also long, too, at 8 episodes. Technically 9, because that final 10 round was an absolute shit show. Afterwards, we do get a few genuinely great episodes. Of course, the big part of this section is the infamous truck deal between Yao-Man and Dreams. Now, you can argue all you want over who was in the right down in the comments, but it's easily the most engaging part of the season for me. I've also always been extremely fond of Earl as a winner. But then we get to Final Tribal, which is absolutely nasty. And that sums up this season to a T. Some great moments, but all in all, a slog that I never look forward to revisiting. Remember when Survivor 44 was called the best season of the new era and the gold standard for seasons going forward? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah, the public perception of this season has gone down quite a bit in the last few years, hasn't it? While it was never my favorite, I did enjoy it for what it was at the time. But the cracks are now starting to show. To start with the positives, the Tika 3 is such a great alliance. All 3 of them are really strong characters and equally strong players. Though because they're so likable, it comes at the expense of most everyone else on the cast. Now, I think a lot of them had great potential, but it's so clear that one of the Tika 3 is gonna win that it almost completely overshadows the rest. That and this season indulges in some of the worst traits of the new era. Twists galore. Twists here, twists there, twists everywhere. This results in some of the most unfair eliminations in the history of the show, and set a bad precedent for the future. Thankfully, things have improved, but all the nonsense is mainly what puts it this low. I really didn't want to, but this is one of those seasons that gets worse the more I think about it. It'll never drop down to D for me, but unfortunately, 44 is going to land in C today.
Season 44 was an absolute banger season.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Ghost Island is a season that just kind of frustrates me. I initially thought the theme was kind of cool. The prospect of these cursed survivor mementos being given new life was intriguing, but when half the cast have seemingly never watched the show before, and it's possible for people to go to the island and not even do anything, seriously, what were they thinking? It just leads to the whole idea feeling extremely half-baked. That being said, the pre-merge is actually pretty good. I'd say everything up to the Libby boot is fairly enjoyable. Afterwards, well, while the tie vote between Dom and Wendell is undoubtedly iconic, the episodes leading up to it can only be described as being cucked again and again. Every episode becomes the same story. Someone talks about taking one of them out, Laurel considers it, and then changes her mind and ruins everything. It's so boring. The ending makes it worth it a bit, but the last third is such a grind. Great start and end, but the middle leaves a lot to be desired. It's been said before, but Survivor 48 is basically Ghost Island 2.0. Granted, I will say, as you can tell by the placements, I think it is a slightly better Ghost Island, mainly just due to the cast. I actually really like most of them, but this season has the same problem as Ghost Island in that the story completely ignores most of the players, and every episode in the post-merge blue balls you with an exciting game-changing blindside, only for the boring predictable target to get the boot. Also like Ghost Island, it does somewhat come together in the end. Kyle played such a great game, even if the editing did tend to undermine him at times. Though I want to give a special shout out to David. This dude was such a nice surprise, and a great change of pace for new era casting. Also, yes, the Joe and Eva moment is incredibly powerful and one of the best human moments in the entire show. As you can see, 48's a mixed bag for me. I don't hate it like a lot of people do. If it had a better edit, I think it could have been great, but as it is, it's just pretty middle of the road. To no one's shock, Game Changers finds itself the weakest All-Star season in my eyes. While I don't hate this season by any means, past the first few episodes, it's just kind of underwhelming. Sarah does play an excellent game, but I feel like the editing didn't really do her justice, and so many eliminations seemingly come out of nowhere. I already knew about the Zeke Varner situation beforehand, so that initial shock was gone, but I do have to say, while it is absolutely terrible that this happened in the first place, I do love seeing everyone fully support Zeke, because it really shows how far we've come as a society. So unlike Thailand and Island of the Idols, it doesn't ruin the season for me. Cerie's default elimination is one of the most notable moments in Survivor history, for better or worse. I still don't know quite how to feel about it, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't great TV. Game Changers is definitely a C season for me. Don't hate it, don't love it, it's one of those that just exists. And sometimes that's okay. I'll be honest, I never quite understood the hype behind San Juan del Sur. Now, I enjoy Natalie's run in the second half as much as the next guy, but aside from that, Drew Christie's boot, and Keith Nail just being the absolute best, there's not much I really care for here. John Rocker is one of the most misguided casting decisions ever. I get they wanted to create some sort of redemption arc for him, and I know he's not around long, but the fact that he was cast at all infuriates me. But not as much as Missy. The way she ran things was super obnoxious, particularly with the Hunapu Rice debacle and the whole charade at the Touchy Subjects challenge. All these things made this season have such a poor first impression on me. I did have a better time on the rewatch though. It has some of that Gabon train wreckiness about it, which I appreciate, but the cast is pretty meh for the most part. I get why people like this season, but not really why many listed among their favorites. If you're a big fan of this one, that's fine. But it's just kind of a dud for me. Not bad, but not really that great. Survivor 49 was always going to struggle to be noticed since it came right before the highly anticipated 50th season. So because of that, I think they used this season as an excuse to experiment. Significantly fewer journeys and twists, a later than usual merge, new and revamped challenges, and an honest-to-God swap into 2 tribes. While not everything worked, I applaud them for trying to spruce things up, if even a little. As for the season itself, I wasn't super invested in the beginning, but I have to say, I did start enjoying it more and more as it progressed, though I do still have issues. The same conflicts seemingly come up episode after episode, the gameplay isn't super interesting, and compared to most other New Era seasons, the screen time is heavily imbalanced. Rizzo and Savannah's appearance on 50 is likely to blame for that. This is one of the seasons I struggled placing on the ranking the most since it's so new, and it took me a while to really sort out my thoughts on it. I couldn't decide if it was absolute cinema or just kinda mid. For now, it lands around the middle of the pack, since I do kinda like it, but unless I end up in an asylum later in life, which isn't impossible, I don't see it ever becoming one of my favorites. Though it's way better than 48 for what that's worth. I mentioned before that Nicaragua was a guilty pleasure of mine, and it still is. Do I understand why some don't like this season? Of course. But to those who call it one of the worst of all time? Really? No season where Benry performs the ceremonial loser dismount, Marty convinces Fabio that he's a chess grandmaster, or Tyrone does his iconic eye rolls can ever be a bottom tier season for me. Also, Jeff is at his absolute best here. So many of his most iconic zingers come from this season, and that alone easily boosted up a few spots. I will concede that the double quit does grind the season to a halt, and from there on out, it's a fairly predictable outcome. Nicaragua has so many fun moments, even if the cast is pretty lackluster, and the Medallion of Power was a colossal flop. It's the clearest example of a C season for me, and while it's one I do enjoy, I can't really justify putting it that high. Remember when I said that the worst part of Thailand was that it was mean-spirited? Well, Worlds Apart is much the same. When I first watched this season, I was prepared to call it a bottom 5 of all time. Dan, Rodney, and Will are among the most unlikable people this show has ever had, which is saying a lot. Though unlike Thailand, I get the sense they knew that and tried their best to make it bearable by making them these big doofuses who shouldn't be taken seriously. Especially Rodney. Oh my god, his whole birthday storyline kills me. Once I started viewing the season through the lens of a dark comedy, it did start to click with me a little. Not enough for me to say I like it, but enough for me to not hate it. The main thing that keeps this season alive for me is Mike's run. Starting with his auction faux pas, Mike goes on the greatest immunity run in Survivor history. And even though you know he's gonna do it, it's still thrilling to see him scrape by the skin of his teeth each round. Mike is the one bright spot in a sea of darkness this season. And because of that, and some admittedly hilarious moments, Worlds Apart finds itself this high up, which I definitely did not expect going into this ranking. I'm so torn on Edge of Extinction. On the one hand, it is a very fun season. I genuinely think Manu is one of the most entertaining tribes in Survivor history. Everything surrounding them is so chaotic, and every single one of them is an icon in their own right. On the other hand, the Edge itself is such a broken and poorly thought out twist that actively rewards people for getting voted out early. I could go on a whole rant about how much I hate the Edge as a game mechanic, but despite that, I do still come away from this season fairly positively, even if the first 3/4 of the game meant absolutely nothing in the end. It's a season with one huge glaring problem in the titular Edge of Extinction, but at the same time, if not for the Edge, we wouldn't have gotten Rick Devens and a truly epic finale. So yeah, kinda mixed thoughts overall, but not bad. South Pacific is the perfect example of a mixed bag season for me. Depending on the day, I might think the season is an underrated gem or one of the show's lowest points. Let's start with the good. Unlike Redemption Island, the newbie players here actually have personalities and came to play. I actually think this is a great cast, even if some of them are completely ignored in the edit. Cochran is one of my favorite players of all time. Does he play poorly this season? Yes, but I identified a lot with Cochran. I saw myself in him, and him turning on those who bullied him, sinking their games in the process, was extremely cathartic for me. Ozzy's entire story arc this season is perfect for him. Him starting off as a complete tool, rising up, winning challenges, as he does, and coming up one win short would have been the perfect conclusion for his Survivor career, if he hadn't come back 2 more times after this. Now the bad. The aforementioned teasing of Cochran is really uncomfortable to watch, but not as uncomfortable as... The Family. Just saying the name makes me cringe. The way Coach manipulates people's faith for his own gain, particularly Brandon, is just so wrong. And I'm not even a religious guy. There's also the extremely lopsided editing, like I've already said, which only really gives the spotlight to like a fourth of the cast, leaving the rest behind. This is the season I'm the most mixed on of any, which is why it finds itself right at the top of C. Survivor 42 was a complete 180 from 41 for me. I was fully expecting to be just as disappointed, but I ended up enjoying it a lot when I first saw it. Now that being said, 42 has gone down for me over time. While I do still like it, better seasons have come afterwards. And now that there's much more to compare to, and seeing how many of the new era kinks have been ironed out, 42 doesn't stand out as much to me anymore. It's just a pretty solid season all throughout. The Omer blindside is iconic, and Marianne is a fun winner, but it still has some of that 41 jank in it. Hourglass, Do or Die, which makes me not like it as much as some of its successors. So that's why it finds itself right at the bottom of B. Amazon is a season I've always liked, but never loved. It's hard to explain why, but I've never considered this season one of my favorites. Don't get me wrong, I love Rob Cesternino, who doesn't, and there are some great iconic moments here, like chocolate and peanut butter, Utch's obsession with firewood, and Christie's rivalry with Jenna and Heidi. I actually don't mind the sexism that much. While yes, it does date the season quite a bit, most everyone on the cast is having fun, and not taking it too seriously, and so we, the audience, do the same. And those that do take it too far get what's coming to them. The men versus women theme is kinda tacky in today's world, but it was a smart move on the show's part following the general audience's disappointment with the last couple seasons. And it's pretty important for that. This is a textbook B season for me. Some great moments, but will probably never rise above just being good. So that's why it lands here. If you had asked me to rank the seasons back when I went on hiatus from the series after Caramoan, I would have still had One World dead last. But perhaps surprisingly, I would have had Marquesas just above it. Yeah, this season is like the inverse of Thailand in that I really didn't like it the first time. I thought it was incredibly boring. All I could have told you about this season is that they found some human remains and that it was the debut of Boston Rob. But as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate it more and more, hence its placement on the list today. Back then, I was all about the challenges, and Marquesas' challenges weren't great. Of course, at the time I didn't know why, but now that I know the context, I appreciate that they really did try their best given the circumstances. Aside from that, I've also grown to respect the things I never thought much of when I was younger, such as the evolution of strategy, discussions of real-world social issues, and Vesepia's game in general. This is probably the season that I've changed my mind on the most, and now I can definitely say I'm a fan, and I encourage anyone who may have had a similar first impression as me to give it another chance. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. When I first saw the title of this season, I laughed. I honestly thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. I've never been the biggest fan of these tribe division themes, but Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers is like a parody of a Survivor theme. For those who want tribe division themes to come back, just take one look at this season and reconsider. They were already running out of ideas at this point. Imagine how bad they'd be in the new era. Okay, enough about the theme. The season itself is good, actually. I used to have the opinion that this was the most average season of Survivor ever made, but I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it on my rewatch. The cast is really likable, there are a lot of great moves, and I will defend Ben's game to my last breath. It is a shame that the Final Four firemaking controversy overshadows all the good qualities about this season, but it's one that has gone up quite a bit for me, which I definitely did not expect going into this. Season 12, Exile Island, was the first season I watched live that I remember being underwhelmed by. Why was that? Well, a few things. Firstly, I was disappointed that they again reused a prior location instead of going somewhere new. Oh, if only my younger self knew. Also, I thought the Exile Island theme was extremely gimmicky, and seemed to me that the show was running out of ideas. Nowadays, I'm able to appreciate the season for what it is, and that is, it is absolutely hysterical. Oh my god, before I did my quarantine rewatch, I completely forgot how funny this season is, and as you all know, Kasaya is to thank for that. There is not a dull moment when this tribe is on screen, especially when Shane is present. The boot order is fairly predictable, and Aris as a winner isn't the most electrifying presence, but I mean, this is the debut of Cirie Fields. That alone makes this season a keeper. It's not one of my personal favorites, but I totally understand if it's one of yours. Survivor 43 is such a fascinating season to me. It addressed many of the complaints that the fans had about the last 2 seasons. The twists were significantly reduced, more focus was placed on the characters, and the challenges were a lot better. And yet, most fans and production seemed really down on this season, which is a shame because I think the season gets way too much hate. Yes, Gabler beat Cassidy. Get over it. Just because your favorite didn't win doesn't make the season bad. 43 has a lot I really enjoy, like the cast. I genuinely think this is a great group of people, and I'm sad none of them made it on 50. Everything circling around Cody's blind side is just so good. The fact that the show can still surprise and excite 20 plus years later is a testament to how timeless the format is. I feel like if someone else had won, or if the season didn't have that early new era stigma attached to it, people would be much higher on it. As for me, I love it for what it is, and have no problem having it this high. Please, I implore you, give it another chance and keep an open mind. You won't regret it. Cook Islands is such a fun season, and it really shouldn't be. This season should have been a total disaster that killed the franchise, but miraculously, it didn't. Despite all odds, this season turned out about as well as it could have. The I-24 is one of the most likable alliances in Survivor history, and there's so many legendary players here. This was the birth of Ozzy, Yul, Parvati, and Jonathan Penner, and it should always be remembered for that. I'll give you that most of the pre-merge boots are total duds, but even then, there's still Billy, Cowboy, and I've always had a soft spot for Flicka. But every time, Raro as a collective just becomes worse and worse for me. Rarely does a tribe come along where I actively groan each time they show up, but they are one of them. Luckily, they're only shown when they need to be, so they're easy to ignore for the most part. I've always thought of this season as kind of a sequel to Pearl Islands, given the pirate imagery and whatnot. And while it's not nearly as good, it's still one I enjoy. Far from the best, but I still really like it. Oh, All-Stars, where to place you? There's so much I love about this season. It's the one, next to Australia, that I've rewatched the most. So much about this season is ingrained in my head that, like Australia, it's hard for me to give a fair, unbiased shake. I've always favored All-Star seasons, just because I love seeing my favorite players interacting. The drawback is that it can cause some players' reputations to become sullied on the return, not naming any names. Of course, you can't talk about this season without bringing up the Richard Sue incident. That whole debacle alone means I can't in good faith put it that high. It doesn't ruin the whole season for me, but it's a huge stain and definitely knocks the season down a number of spots. The whole drama between Lex and Rob was one of the most gripping things I'd seen at the time, but it is also extremely uncomfortable to watch. Because this cast was so close, you were watching genuine friendships collapse before your eyes, which just makes it an awkward time. That being said, this season is all about the Rob and Amber romance, and damn it, it gets me every time. I can't hate All-Stars, no matter how much time goes by. Somehow, despite all the dark moments this season, and there are a lot, I always come around on it by the end. That's why I have it where it is. It's fitting that the first All-Star season be followed by the most recent. Survivor 50 in the hands of the fans was a true roller coaster ride. Hell of a lot of fun, but definitely had some low points. When the cast is allowed to just play off each other and go nuts, it's peak. There's so much great drama. A number of players were clearly haunted by their past seasons, and those continuing storylines and conflicts are what you want out of an All-Star season. And on that front, 50 delivers and then some. But when all the new era shenanigans rear their ugly heads, it becomes frustrating. I swear, if I ever hear the words Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol again, it will be too soon. The celebrity cameos in general were some of the most contentious aspects of the season for the majority of fans. And while I do agree to an extent, that's not enough for me to not still enjoy 50 quite a bit. It could have been better, but it also could have been much worse. So I'm thankful for what we got. And I look forward to seeing what's in store for 51 and beyond. Koh-Ron is another season I've always really liked, but never quite understood why so many have it as one of their favorites. While the Caleb medevac is really impactful, the sheer amount of evacuations this season really kills the pace, especially when it seems like something pivotal is about to happen. Scott Pollard is one of the biggest assholes this game has ever seen, and I'm glad Survivor has stopped casting these types of dudes. Though I will admit, his elimination is just mwah, delicious. Also, can I just say I freaking love Ty? Now, I like Aubrey, Sydney, and Debbie as much as the next guy, but Ty is such a great casting choice. I can see why they brought him back immediately for Game Changers, because he makes everything better just by existing. I used to really not be a fan of Michelle and her winning game, but I've since seen the light, and now appreciate her as the great player she is. So yeah, it's a really good season, but doesn't quite reach that upper tier for me. Blood vs. Water is just a straight up good season. I absolutely love Tyson and his winning trajectory here. The rock draw is thrilling, and yes, she voted out her mom. It also probably has the best integration of Redemption Island in its 3 appearances, due to the extra wrinkle of the contestants playing with their loved ones, though that day 1 vote is still bullshit. I hated seeing Colton back, of course, but at least he leaves early. Now, on the subject of the cast, I was actually surprised at how much I genuinely enjoyed the Loved Ones tribe. Not that the returnees are dull or anything, but I found the dynamics on the Loved Ones tribe super interesting on the rewatch, which I was not expecting. So while I do enjoy this season quite a bit, it never quite rose up to being an all-timer for me. But it is really entertaining, and was a pleasant surprise for me, since this was the first season since Palau that I didn't get to watch live. It's just a good, solid season, and I think this is a decent spot for it. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The 90-minute episodes are the best thing to happen to this show in years. It gives so much more time to get to know everyone and allows for more breathing room, especially with their continued insistence on doing 3 tribes. Survivor 45 is proof of that. This season felt like a breath of fresh air at the time. Now, it's not perfect. The 2 pre-merge quits suck, and their obsession with having people lose their votes all the damn time can be infuriating. But there's so many good parts, you forget about all that. This is such a great cast, and the added airtime makes it so things are a lot more balanced screen time wise. No one feels purpled or overexposed. It feels just right. Add on some really impressive gameplay, and you just have a really good season overall. Dare I say great. Survivor 45 and the 2 following seasons showed that the new era could work and stand on the same level as the pre-COVID times, so it deserves a ton of praise for that. Also, it marked the return of the auction and the intro. Nuff said. Africa was always kind of that awkward part 3 in the eyes of many. If the first 3 seasons were Star Wars, Africa would be Return of the Jedi. Or if they were Oasis albums, it'd be Here Now. And no, still good, but a comparative letdown. And this is one that has fluctuated a bunch for me. I've had times where it's been in my top 10, other times more around the middle. On my latest rewatch though, I was reminded of just how much fun this season is. Like other earlier seasons, it has aged poorly in some spots, but it's just such a unique season. The survival elements are at their most brutal here, and moments like the players' encounters with water buffalo and lions are intense, yet mesmerizing to experience. The challenges are great, and there are fantastic character moments in pretty much every episode. Drunk Big Tom will never not be hysterical. I just love the 3 Moran boys in general. Each one of them brings such a unique aura to the show, and Ethan is probably the greatest human being to ever win the $1 million. So yeah, Africa, it's a good time. Thumbs up. Survivor 47 is pretty universally considered the best new era season, and it's hard to disagree. While it's not my personal favorite, which you'll see in a bit, it does so much right. Of course, Operation Italy is one of the greatest moves in Survivor history, and the fact that I can say that for season 47 is incredible. The cast on the whole is a ton of fun, with some delightfully messy gameplay and some great petty drama sprinkled throughout. Plus, there are no quits or icky moments to speak of. It's just a great season, and should be seen as the gold standard for seasons going forward instead of frickin' 44 or 48. I think we can all agree on that, right? Like with every ranking I do, Borneo is always the hardest for me to place. Despite how much nostalgia I have for this season, I'll be the first to admit it can sometimes be hard to go back to, but it just has that undeniable charm that always manages to captivate me. It's really hard to fathom nowadays just how massive Survivor was at the time unless you lived through it, but there's a reason it made such an impact. So much of what happens this season is so perfect you swear it was scripted. Rich and Rudy's friendship, Gretchen's vote off, the alphabet strategy, snakes and rats, I could go on. Now, despite being one of the most iconic seasons of television in history, there are a number of seasons I like more, but I can't not give it its due, and Borneo rightfully deserves a spot this high on the list. If you ask me what is the best season to have new viewers start with, my choice will always be Tocantins. Why do I think that? Well, it's in HD, which decreases the barrier of entry for many. It's a really good season overall, though not the absolute best the show has to offer, which is important because I'm of the mind you don't want to start with the peak, because then you have nowhere to go but down. A location is beautiful, and the cast is just so strong. I mean, this season gave us Coach. That's all I really need to say, honestly. It's a classic 16-person cast with a final 2, but has enough twists to keep things interesting. It tells you all that you need to know about how Survivor works, and it's just fun. All in all, a great season. It just can't compare to some of the higher spots for me. Samoa is one of those that I have a very hard time assessing. Is it entertaining? Hell yeah it is. Is Russell Hantz massively overexposed, leading to a bunch of people feeling underutilized? Absolutely. Is it still a lot of fun despite that? Yes, very much so. For years, fans have clamored for a re-edit of this season that gives more balanced screen time throughout, and I have to agree. There is the potential for this to be an S-tier season. It's there. I can see it. While I still enjoy it a lot as is, it doesn't quite reach the heights that I wish it could have. You'll never hear me call Samoa a bad season. It's a good season. Damn good, actually. But I have a hard time calling it one of my favorites. There's a lot I really like here, but an underwhelming winning story for Natalie, plus characters who couldn't reach their full potential due to the lopsided editing, lands Samoa outside of the top tier. Philippines was the season that made me have faith in the show again, until Karamoan swiftly crushed that optimism right afterwards. At this point I was already sick of seeing returning players, but the ones on this season were actually a lot of fun. Yes, even Scoobin at the time. It gave us another one of my all-time favorite players in Malcolm, and it was such a breath of fresh air seeing 3 tribes. Again, at the time. The fall of Matt Sane and the rise of Malcolm and Denise is one of my favorite storylines in all of Survivor. This is just a great season, and was a true outlier amongst the others of its era. It's just pure Survivor, with no icky or gross moments to speak of. A real gem, and worthy of a spot in A tier. And the winner of my favorite new era season is Survivor 46, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. This season was dumb, messy, chaotic, and I loved almost every second of it. Bonu's downfall is very uncomfortable, but I've since learned to accept it as the glorious car crash that it is. Once he's gone, the rest of the cast really gets to shine, and now we're suddenly in Gabon 2.0, which I am all for. Q alone is worth the price of admission. Everything he does this season is so insane, so ridiculous, and so off the wall that it almost comes back around to being brilliant. Almost. He, several meaning 7, and Liz's Applebee's meltdown will embed themselves in the Survivor ecosystem for years to come. And the fact that 5 people go home with idols in their pockets, 4 of them in a row, is genuinely impressive. I really like 46, and I feel like this season is going to age like fine wine. You have no idea how much it pains me that Guatemala is often considered Survivor's most forgotten season, because I absolutely love it, but I do somewhat understand. This season doesn't really have those big, flashy, iconic moments that stick with you for years to come, but I still think it's a great time. The location is incredible, and it has some of the best challenges of old school Survivor. The cast has more duds than what was typical of this era, but the characters that are great are really great. Judd is absolutely hilarious, and it's a tragedy that he never got the chance to return. Honestly, he alone makes this season worth watching. And of course, there's the humble landscaper himself, Gary Hawkins. Steph's rise and fall was also very intriguing to me, especially coming off the heels of Palau. If you're not the biggest fan of this season, I get it. But for me, Guatemala will always be my choice for the most underrated season, and it's one I have no regrets placing this high. I've had a very interesting relationship with Micronesia. If you can believe it, when I watched this season live, I really didn't like it. Yeah, this season let me down big time upon first viewing. I never really cared for the fans versus favorites theme. I always thought it was dumb, cause of course the favorites are gonna destroy. Also pretty much all of my favorites, Fairplay, Penner, Yowman, were all gone before the merge, and Ozzy was made to look like a chump. I also didn't really care for the all-women alliance at the time, because I thought they were being too mean to the guys, especially Eric. For the longest time, I always held the opinion that this was the most overrated season, but I've finally seen the light. I can recognize now how much of a landmark season this is. I mean, this is the season that made Parvati the legend she is. Eric's blindside is truly perfect, and the fans are actually way more entertaining than I initially gave them credit for. The one main complaint I still have is that the large number of quits and medevacs this season really suck. But besides that, I can finally see what everyone else sees in this season, and I'm giving it high marks, even if it's still not one of my all-time favorites. When I started getting back into Survivor, in no small part due to all the great content on YouTube, you have no idea how thrilled I was to see Vanuatu's reappraisal, and that so many people finally recognize how good a season it is. Like I've said, the finale of this season is where it all started for me, and when I was finally able to watch the whole season, it quickly became one of my favorites. Let's just say you can expect to see Chris very high up on the winner ranking. I've heard people say that this season is a more mature version of the Amazon, and I definitely agree with that assessment. Chris and Twyla are the perfect final 2 for this season. season, and this final tribal is one of the best. I don't even mind the first few episodes, which are pretty universally considered slow and bland. Just trust me, this season really comes together in the end. A great season, and one that I'm so glad others are finally starting to appreciate as much as I do. Bias alert, bias alert. Australia means so much to me because it's the season that made me a fan. While it wasn't my first exposure to Survivor, it might as well have been. It taught me everything I needed to know about the game, and it's a season I can never get tired of. I know some hate how slow this season is, but outside of the finale, that never really bothered me. This season captures Survivor at its peak impact on popular culture, and though better seasons came afterwards, Survivor was never as prevalent in the cultural zeitgeist as it was here. The cast is classic, real world issues aside. Like Borneo before it, everyone is just so memorable. I can never look at this season objectively, but then again, this list isn't meant to be objective. It's mine. So Australia, here's to you. I love you so much, never change. Winners at War had some heavy expectations placed on it. Here was a season that had been teased for years, and it managed to turn out pretty damn great, despite production's best efforts. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. I don't know why, but at times it seemed like they were actively trying to hamper the season with all the crazy twists. If Tony wasn't able to get the necessary fire tokens, or if Natalie, who remember was voted out first, had been able to win, this season would have been ruined. But by some miracle, that didn't happen. And as a result, this season soars above many others below it in my mind. Now, like I've said, there are problems with this season structurally, mostly because of that goddamn edge of extinction, but I still love it. I mean, it's the all-winners season. Even with its issues, I can't help but just have a blast with it all the way through. It was a true celebration of the show, and like Avengers Endgame, it felt like a perfect conclusion for all of these legends. When I first saw the teaser for this season, I audibly groaned. I've never really been a fan of these demographic tribe division themes, as I've already said, but despite that, I ended up loving this season way more than I thought I would. I was expecting this season to be cringe all the way through, and while Jeff tries to make it that way sometimes, the other 95% is some of the best that the show has to offer, and I really do mean that. Jeff once said this was his favorite newbie cast of all time, and I can see why. The different personalities and how they all interact is such a fun time. This season gets accused of having too many game bots, but I don't agree. While yes, everyone came to play hard, that doesn't stop them from being extremely entertaining along the way. Adam's winning story is one of my favorites, but I'll go over that more next time. Millennials vs. Gen X had every reason to fail, but it succeeds in pretty much every aspect for me, and I have no reservations about putting it in the top 10. I love it. I've said before that Palau was the first season I fully watched live, and it will always be special to me for that. I've heard some say that this season is only worth watching the one time and that it gets worse on the rewatch, but I don't agree. Few things in Survivor are as captivating to me as Ulan's complete and utter decimation. Oftentimes with disaster tribes in Survivor, it seems like a lot of external factors or things out of their control are what cause them to lose. Think Ravu or Malolo or Kella. But Ulan is such a fascinating tribe to me because they did most of it to themselves. And each episode you keep thinking, okay, maybe this is the one, but it never happens. Even after they're all gone, there's still a lot of good stuff in the second half. I mean, the final immunity challenge is one of my favorite moments in the entire series. It's just such an incredible display of human will, and I absolutely love it. This season is like Full Metal Jacket, in that it feels like two movies put together, but both halves are great and worth experiencing. It's a season unlike any other, and one that will stick with me for the rest of my life. It's honestly a miracle that David vs. Goliath is as good as it is. The theme on the surface is extremely tacky, inherently giving a distinct advantage to the Davids, pretty much giving them a guaranteed win at the end with their story. But despite that, this season really impressed me. Every episode has at least one moment that someone could realistically list as one of their favorites of all time. Way too many to list here. The cast is one of the best. So many great characters with hardly any duds to speak of, just the way I like it. This entire cast could come back and play again, and the season would be completely different each time. Of course, I gotta mention Christian, one of the best casting decisions ever on this show. I came into this season expecting not to like it, but it surpassed my expectations. And now I understand why so many rank it among the best. It's just a fantastic season, no matter how you shake it. I love Gabon. Believe it or not, that used to be a hot take. Yeah, the first HD season has had quite the critical reappraisal in the last decade and a half, hasn't it? Remember, this was the season that made Jeff Probst quit. Yes, you heard that right. Jeff was so frustrated with this season at the time that he couldn't take it anymore. Thankfully, Mark Burnett was able to convince him to come back, but still, for years, this season had this reputation as being an absolute disaster. Well, it is, but that's why I love it. This is like the anti-Survivor season, and I mean that as the largest compliment I can possibly muster. In contrast to One World, where only one person knew how to play Survivor, here, no one knows how to play Survivor, and that's what makes it great. Even beyond that, the challenges are some of the best they've ever done, and there's so much fun petty drama, the best kind. I mean, there's a major argument over cookies. What more can you say? It truly makes me happy that people have come around on this season, cause it is an absolute blast the whole way through. This is one of those seasons where you just need to turn your brain off and enjoy the ride, and it is one hell of a ride. China was what the show needed at the time. This season gave Survivor the kick in the pants it needed to maintain its cultural footprint, and it deserves an immense amount of credit for that. And every time I watch it, I remember why. As you all know, China has arguably the best cultural theming of any season. No expense was spared in ingratiating as much of Chinese culture and traditions as they could to make a truly engaging television product. The cast is fantastic, the challenges are top tier, and outside of some shenanigans with the swap, I honestly have no real complaints. This is another I can recommend to anyone, and I have no doubt it'll continue to be one of the best until the end of time. Cambodia was everything I wanted it to be. Even though I wasn't watching at this point, I did see the players being selected and was thrilled to see so many of them finally get their second chance. Everyone came to play hard, and play hard they did. The strategic gameplay on this season was next level at the time, and you can credit it a lot with how the show would be structured going forward, for better or worse. I think Second Chance is the perfect concept for a returnee season, and I would love to see them do it again because there's so much potential to create even more legends. Make it happen, CBS. For now though, the one we do have is fantastic. Everything about this season works for me. The cast, the location, the challenges, the vote-offs, it all works. I honestly have no complaints with this season. I love it so much and I have no qualms about putting it in S tier. Cagayan. 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 I think you get the point. Is it any surprise that I think Cagayan is top tier? This is another I didn't get to watch live, and man, I really wish I had. Before watching, I heard so much about this being one of the best seasons ever, and honestly, I was prepared to be extremely disappointed, but I wasn't. In fact, it surpassed my expectations. You all know this season is great, you don't need me to convince you, so I'll just say this season completely deserves the praise it gets. It successfully got Survivor out of its biggest rut, its inclusion on Netflix introduced so many people to the show, and it gave us the king of Survivor himself, Tony. You can't argue with that. So yeah, Cagayan, what more is there to say? I don't think it's a hot take to say Pearl Islands is one of the best. Everyone loves this season, and for good reason. The pirate theme was such an inspired choice, especially in the wake of Pirates of the Caribbean, and like the best themes, they really commit to it. And as a result, this season has such a strong identity that most seasons don't even come close to capturing. Add in some of the most iconic characters in the show's history, like Rupert, Sandra, and Fairplay, and you have a season that, outside of being in standard def, I think is a perfect season to introduce to new viewers. I could go on, but Pearl Islands is just a fantastic season all around, and it'll always hold a special place in my heart. To the surprise of absolutely no one, my favorite Survivor season is Heroes vs. Villains, and I know I'm not the only one. I could honestly go on for hours about everything I love about this season, but I know you all are probably exhausted at this point, so I'll get on with it. The cast is perfect. I honestly can't imagine any single person not being here. Yes, even Candace. The challenges are incredible, as you would expect for an all-star season. It has one of the best finales of all time, resulting in the first ever two-time winner. Then there's the immaculate storytelling. On the surface, the Heroes vs. Villains theme can be seen as hokey, but the editing of the season is so good you don't care. The heroes have their villainous moments, and the villains have their heroic moments. The way the story of the season is told is just so well done, despite them sandbagging Sandra pretty hard in the first half. Any problems I could conjure up for this season would just be extremely nitpicky, so I'm not even gonna bother. This season represents the peak of Survivor to me, and I doubt another will come along that will impress me as much as this one does. Heroes vs. Villains is one of my favorite seasons of television, period, and I can't imagine imagine life without it. That's why it's number 1. Well, there you go. That was my personal ranking of all 50 Survivor seasons. I understand that everyone's tastes differ, and I have no doubt that some of my choices will vary greatly from yours. I hope you look forward to my winner ranking coming up next. Feel free to let me know which seasons you agree or disagree with, and here's to 25 more years of Survivor. Sayonara.